pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Whoops. Will the Vice Chair, well, let's see, do the fire call. In case of fire, there are two ways to exit the chambers. To my left, you could exit through the council chamber doors, turn left and walk down a flight of stairs and outside of the building. Or perhaps the best way is to exit through the rear doors of the chambers. And in either case, please, once you're outside of the building, walk a safe distance away from the building. Now, if the Vice Chair will take a roll.
Charles Duran.
Here.
Elizabeth Talbot here. Peter Falk. Kathleen Sarno. Lori Longy.
Here.
Nicholas Lefakis. Charles Ladd. Ron Gregory.
Here.
Alan Driner.
Here.
Dominic Alamo.
Here.
Commissioner Gregory will be sitting in for Commissioner Falk. Commissioner, who's next? Commissioner Limo will be in for Commissioner Lefakis. And Commissioner Drinan will take Commissioner Sarno. Okay, or whatever, it doesn't make any difference, we still have one left. Okay, so all three will be sitting in for absent commissioners. Approval of minutes of April 19th.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any additions, errors, or omissions? Okay, I myself have found a couple on page 10, third paragraph from the bottom. This mentions here, and this was on the work going on up for the Whirly Ball. It's about third paragraph up. It said traffic was an issue. Traffic wasn't an issue with me. It was crowd control or crowds. And that would be this on that third line there. And then on the last line, it says traffic again. And again, it should be crowds and what they plan to do, because that's also carried through later by other people's questions on bathrooms and alcohol and so on and so forth. Well, I don't know. But those are the two areas there where it says traffic, but it carries traffic. Where I mentioned traffic, it was up above on the street when we were talking about the auto parts store. Okay, and another one, please. Very particular on quoting people on several things, but when I get up onto page 16, and we're talking about the voting on changing, let's see, text change, zoning regulations, and definitions, counting decks as building coverage. It sort of gets off the line and never picks up on things that people said and why we voted against it. All it says, we voted against it. Where elsewhere, we're very particular on what things are said. And in fact, I even remarked that a professor even said, the way it's written in the book is correct, the interpretation. And the interpretation was to stand, my opinion was that the reason the commission voted it down was because they felt that that article, I can't give you the right, should stand because that's the way it says it, that's the way it reads. And there's no ands, ifs, or buts. Now, that's the way. Now, I also, when I was looking at other papers, that's also quoted in a letter from the town attorney concerning, well, it was concerning Eli Lilly, dated January 17th. Section 2.30 of zoning regulation provides that a structure is anything constructed or erected which requires a location on the ground or attached to something, having a location on the ground, but not including fences, walls used as fences. So again, even the town attorney says
It is.
it is. So I don't know why we're still playing games with that and why this stuff wasn't quoted on page 16. But it wasn't, and it should be corrected. And I happened to be hearing it last night, or I think it was whatever, the zoning, apparently the CBA was going over this again, and they really, I don't know what the discussion was, but as far as the vote of the commission and why it was turned down was basically because it's already in the
There.
books, and it's there, and it should stand as read, so.
I agree. That's, we parsed the wording of section 4.10 on page 23 and concluded that indeed it's quite clear. There's another portion of the regulation that needs to be corrected that is somewhat at variance, but this statement is quite clear, and so there's no need for any additional changes to it. That's what we concluded.
And that all was lacking in the minutes, and I don't know why that was there, but it should have been. So it should be added, and it should be corrected, so that there's no misinterpretation of what this commission said.
We'll review and put in the right language, whatever was mentioned after the fact, but.
So then we would table them for this meeting
Sure.
and get them
We can do that.
corrected?
Make sure we'll probably put verbatim what the reasons, whatever the chairman might have said after the vote. We'll make sure. it
Well,
gets
I don't
in
know
there.
if it was after the vote, but it should be picked up from what people said,
Sure.
because you quote other
I think
people
I
anyway.
think you're right. You did say something. You did make a statement, and
Okay, then a motion, if they're going to correct these, is that it should be the motion to table.
I'll make a motion to table the minutes until they're corrected.
Second?
Motion's made and seconded, all in favor? It's unanimous.
are there any other changes?
Oh, any other
Oh,
changes? I'm
So we
sorry.
can make
I
them all
jumped.
at once?
Okay,
Right.
well, I didn't hear any before, that's why I usually try to wait for myself. Okay,
We have to
then
vote?
moving on,
Wait,
I'm sorry, no,
Did everybody vote?
Yeah.
yeah.
To
yeah,
table it?
Yep, yep,
we did.
yep. So-
Okay.
It was 6, so 6-0-0. Okay, staff reports, town attorney, my thing says in person, but I
sorry.
think it's in writing.
Oh, you
Again,
got my agenda says in writing, but.
No, in
Yeah.
writing,
well, what's this say?
in person.
Oh.
But the
Yeah.
agenda says in
Oh,
writing.
yeah, she must have used the last month's divider.
All right.
Sorry.
Town attorney report, any questions on, that can be asked of the
Oh,
town
what's this
attorney
Yes.
through Jose? It says the trial briefs are due May 8th and the reply on May 15th, so on we go. Zoning enforcement officer, you have home occupations that were registered.
Yep.
I have a question on, I think it's TNT. They come up later
Right.
someplace with an application, Jose. What's going on?
Well, Ginny issued them an office use, which is a home office, somebody could be a contractor, you could have a telephone, you can receive
Right.
requests. Apparently, the neighbor had called Ginny and said that he had a lot of different things that were stored outside in the backyard, and Ginny said, well, that's not an office use. You would have to get a home occupation use, and I think she referred it over there because there was some outside.
What I'm referring
Had
to, people,
scaffolding, and
is,
she wanted, a sense of the commission, whether that was what the commission felt was,
if we can.
appropriate under a home
Excuse
occupation.
me, what I'm referring to is under correspondence, there's a registration. We don't deal with registration, she does, but there's a letter attached to it, and I don't know if we're I don't understand. It says he wants to park all this equipment, if you read the thing, in his backyard. Now, is this an application for us? Because there's a letter on the next page.
I think it's a referral from Ginny, but I'll clarify for you, but I think she was uncomfortable issuing a home occupation because the way it reads, it says
Well, this is addressed to Deer
that
Planning
it
and
does not
Zoning
alter the
Commission.
exterior of the building, the property, or the residential character neighborhood. And she felt that this, the extent of which he wanted to store things in his yard perhaps went beyond what that commission's intent was in establishing these. So I think she just wanted to refer it. She's referred these in the recall under the, when people came in for gunsmithing, when it was not clear what the regulations allowed or not, she's always referred them to the commission and allowed the applicant to come in and explain what they were doing.
Well, yeah, he can do that, but this is a sort of a letter.
Well, he's
This is over and that's why I don't see that this happened the last time. Can't they just say, put them on the request for
Put 'em on the next-
discussion?
Well, she was gonna go out there and do an inspection tomorrow with the gentleman, so that's not on tonight's agenda, but will be on the next
Put them
agenda.
on, down for items for
I know
discussion.
she's scheduled a
But
visit.
I'm looking at this, and you put in planks, wood planks, metal braces, saws, ladders with motors, compressors.
Well, that's why Jenny felt it went beyond the home office.
This is on
use,
Pleasant,
and
is it Pleasant Street or is it Pleasant
And you
Road?
got two, a neighbor that's
Is there a
complaining
Pleasant
about
Road too?
how it looks from her yard. So
Oh, okay, okay.
we can, she's gonna go out tomorrow, do an inspection with, either with him or not with him. I know she's going out tomorrow morning.
He doesn't say, what kind of a, what district is it, Jose?
I believe that area it's either gonna be a residential 33 or 44. Probably
Okay.
33 along Route 5,
33.
would guess. I don't have, well, hang on,
Well,
should have the map.
when you get something like this, instead of putting it under communication, I wish it was right with whatever else. I don't know, it seemed to be out of place, but that's all right. Well, if he needs to or wants to, is under, come in for a discussion.
If it's along King Street, the lower part, then it's R44. I mean, R33, I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay,
You want him to come in?
I don't know, that's up to the commission. That seems like an awful lot of stuff to store in the backyard. We've had that in other areas and we've denied it. Well, how's the rest of the commission feeling? Is there any sense to him coming in? It's an R33
Yeah.
district.
I
Yeah,
would think so.
You want him in?
I do.
John, Ron.
I mean, we've had trouble elsewhere
to come in?
and denied it. That's
I
why,
would say. I think we should have them come in, only because of the ladders. I mean, you can put a couple of nail guns in your shed, a lot of this stuff will fit in your shed, but the ladders and the planks, I think, we'd have to ask him about those.
yeah, but it depends what time he gets up in the morning and loads his trucks. And we've had
Yeah.
some police over here, not too far away with this kind of, so,
Well, he should come in.
Yeah.
all right,
I agree to have them come in.
okay. Have him come in then.
Lou.
I have two.
Again, she did an excellent job on the, you have questions for Ginny? Any questions for Ginny?
You know, I have a question on another. There's a two-page piece of paper in this general section, draft text amendment to define vocational rehabilitation services as permitted in industrial 1 district. What is this?
I was going to cover that under planners report. Remember when Allied Attic came in and had that temporary retail sales? And they gave us the brochures. They said they would like to see they would like to be able to do that on a permanent basis. And they said, well, can we find a way to write a regulation that would cover, that would define their use and allow that as an accessory part of their use? So that's what we've come up with.
Okay.
Why is it
Just for
there?
our consideration tonight, or just in
Yeah.
advance?
Well, that's for you to look at, and if you feel
Okay.
it's appropriate, you can ask me to send it to CROG, schedule a public hearing.
Okay. So this is
Yeah,
business to be considered in the future. It's it's a rough.
Right, if you take a look at it, read it. If you have any questions, we can put it up for discussion at a subsequent meeting. I just didn't want to.
Okay, we're not covering it tonight, though, but.
No, you're not
Okay.
hearing this tonight. This is just the draft that actually should have.
Good, thank you for asking.
It's just the draft.
Property maintenance, we did not get a report. Did somebody, I heard through the grapevine, is she,
Yeah, she resigned. Her last day was last Wednesday. So in the interim, we have, well, we're going out to look, Janice, I forgot her last name. She was also a part-time, on a temporary basis when needed, working for the building department, is going to come in for a few hours a week and handle the caseload that obviously is picking up, because it's springtime and it's a lot of things popping up and
there sure are.
grass is growing.
Like grass.
So we do, unfortunately, again, the reports, I don't know when we're going to be able to, we're going to get them, start getting them in again in writing, because obviously they're going to be looking for a permanent replacement for Cassie.
Okay, any questions for Jose for
But if you have
property maintenance? He
complaints,
can get it to Peter.
You can still get it to the same number,
You get it to Peter.
and Peter Bryant at a community development.
I had one question going back to Ginny's report.
Yeah.
Once a month, we were supposed to find out about how many building permits went through that were signed off. And you were also supposed to give us the Excel spreadsheet once a month on all of the pending stuff. I didn't see that in the packet this time.
Wasn't
We
it
got
in the last
time.
packets?
We got it last packet, I think.
Oh, so it's on the end of the month and not on the bit, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
I try to do it once a month when I get activity.
Oh, okay,
It's-
okay.
Sometimes there's nothing to update, because
Okay,
we haven't done anything, but
okay,
Okay,
that was it.
and now the Director of Planning.
just a couple of items for your, and I believe I sent this out both by email, and I think you had it maybe in the last time. Just to remind you that on Tuesday, May 15th, there's a workshop over there in Hartford about, which is, with the Lyceum, called the Case Studies on Conflict, Who Decides Where, When, and How We Create Housing. It's a free forum. It's 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. on the 15th. It's sponsored by the Partnership for Strong Communities. I think Charlie Ladd might have attended one of those sessions. They tend to put on these forums that are planning related throughout the year, and so if anybody wants to go, it's free. I think you just need to pre-register. I'll be going to that morning session if anybody wants to carpool. So I'll be attending that on there. Again, the other things I had for you, coming up, one of the things back in 2007, we had I guess Steve Sadlowski went here, we had applied for a grant to do a trail behind the senior center. That's been revived. I understand we got the money, so it's about 30 grand. We just re-upped the figures. It's a little bit, the modern cost would push that beyond the 40 grand total. We were supposed to provide 10,000 in kind, which we can. I mean, basically, staff time reviewing everything and all that. So we should see some action on that fairly soon to actually get some design work on that. Any day now, we're supposed to start on that trail outside. Should see some action on the. I think the contract's been let out, and maybe you've probably seen signs out front along the walking trail along the. So that's about ready to start and get going. Also, I got the specs from CROG. We're going to put out a request for qualifications for the consultants that are going to be doing that zoning study for us for Thompsonville. So
Finally, huh?
finally, Mary Ellen, CROG sent me the.
I heard
We're
about
finally
How many
going to get
years?
something going on.
How many
there,
years,
so
yeah, I know.
And just, I know the Public Safety Academy is moving along, just to update on you. I know they've been meeting with the building department to do some preliminary reviews on their architecturals. In fact, you have an 8-24
It's tonight.
referral later on the agenda that they're going through the Army Corps permitting, and they need, the Army Corps is requiring it to town.
Why is the Army Corps, that was the only wonder, there's no major stream up there. There is a stream.
Army Corps takes a very broad definition of what navigable waters are. I used to work for Killington,
Well,
Vermont.
they might be able to float a toy duck down that one.
No,
but-
anything, well, if it flows into the Connecticut River or impacts the Connecticut River, that's where they take the wetlands into account. I mean,
Okay.
literally, when I was in Killington, Vermont, the parking lot at Pico Peak, which is a top of Sherburne. If you're familiar, it's pretty high up. That was Army Corps of Engineer considered impacting navigable waters because eventually flowed into the Ottaquechee and then out to the White River and then out to the Connecticut River and then out to the Sound. So they take a very broad definition of that.
Okay, you know, you had said, and I've talked about the rail trail, and I think you sat on it once when we were studying it here in town, and we had all the area around. And, you know, you have nice articles in the paper about how Simsbury is, you know, celebrating and all these other places, and we have such an opportunity, and it lays fallow out there, and we could tie it into all the way up to Northampton and who knows where.
I don't know if the state's policy has changed, and I recall because I was the planner in East Windsor at the
Yeah,
time.
right.
And we were coordinating with all the way up to Massachusetts for a
Yes,
trail
we
that
were.
would go up. And then, I remember it well because the first selectman and I were supposed to come in and to a council meeting here in this room, and
Right.
literally as we were walking up the steps, we were told that
They
it was
had
off
leased the
because
trail.
some gentleman had signed a lease agreement with Condot to try to reinstate freight service up through to the Connecticut, to the
But
Massachusetts
as I
border.
recall that there was
Still
an
have that
80-foot
lease.
right-of-way that they still could share.
Yeah,
But-
and their policy was they didn't want right-of-ways sharing bikeways with active rail lines. And
Well, it's really active out there.
so that's, they are working. I mean, if you look at down Broadbrook Road, there's some ties that they've been storing there. They've been sporadic work being done.
No,
to
the council's been after them to move them or
Not-
lose them or.
For
that's-
years, they've been working on that.
I'd say that's about almost 20 years
Yep.
ago.
Yep, it is.
Time
I
flies, 'cause
just,
it was before-
I just thought I'd throw it in because I read the article
Yeah.
on Simsbury and how nice the trail is and so forth. And
The
at
other
least
item,
we have the bike trail over now on the other side, I
We've
guess.
got a sidewalk on Town Farm Road.
Yeah, you do.
and
Okay.
just another item, because I know Chairman is interested in that. We did, and I think you received in your packet, a environmental report from
I gotta take that up. I wanted to ask.
from
you, so-
ECS, basically that they've been sampling the groundwater adjacent to the Pride gas station, and their conclusions was that, you know, there was no contamination that was above the standards for Mass DEP. And I know the question that the chairman had asked me to look into was whether or not the Connecticut, because the plume did extend out into some of the businesses and homes in Enfield,
If you
if
read. what-
DEP has any jurisdiction or they get any notification, and I did make a call, I haven't got a call back. But tomorrow I will be attending the annual training for aquifer protection agents, and
There's a couple of things I have underlined here. It says ECS, which is the company doing the business environmental coverage, understanding the properties in the vicinity of the sites are serviced by municipal drinking. Well, that's nice. But the Connecticut Company wells aren't too far away. And I happen to be drinking out of those wells, although we get a report from the Connecticut Water Company that they're testing okay. But my question does Jose know, this has been going on since 1997, and I've been around for a few years. And I have never heard of this bloom. And I called Jose, and I was wondering if the town had ever gotten notification of this until now it says they're going to close it. They aren't going to pump and purify the water anymore. This is Mass DOP. And the next groundwater sampling is to occur August of 2012. And groundwater has continued to improve, and they're in the process of collecting data for closure of the site with a Mass DEP. And I asked Jose, well, what does Connecticut DEP has to say about it? Because if you look at that plume, it goes all the way down to Carl Street. Very little of it's up in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Most of it's in Connecticut. And why isn't Connecticut DEP got something to say about closing it? I don't know. And Jose was going to call Connecticut Water to see if they were ever aware of it.
I'm not sure that Connecticut ever was. I do have a call in to Kim Zappala, but I'll be seeing her in person tomorrow, so I'll be bringing this with me and saying, look, if you're not the person that gets the notifications, who would?
I'm surprised.
Because I remember when we were going through Aquifer Protection, and we had some people questioning.
Yeah, this is an aquifer
They
protection.
said
It's
they're
the
supposed to
largest
notify,
aquifer
there
around
was some
here.
cross agreements.
We've been talking about the aquifer for years. We had even had DEP people in here telling us about the program and how to run it. Nobody ever mentioned it.
Well, I think somebody did ask what happens for.
I did. I've been asking because there are two
and they said
companies
there
up
were some
there.
agreements between
You
the
got
states. to-
you got the mobile station up above on North Maple, and you got this one, which used to be a mobile. But nobody ever mentioned that we had a gasoline plume up there. So I don't know. And they got test wells, which is amazing. Maybe the people on those streets know it, on Connecticut Avenue and Knox Avenue. So, or on Enfield Street too, I guess, 3 of them.
Well, it looks like more than 3. It looks like they have, one on Enfield, 1, 2, 3, the other ones.
And all of these test wells are in Enfield, so
Right.
I don't know. So I'm asking Jose to try to find out and get us some information. It's a surprise,
I'll talk to Kim and the people from the Aquifer
but
Protection Program
I
tomorrow.
would think that we'd get involved before they close it down, or at the state DEP get involved before they close it down.
Here's me.
Thank you, Jose. I was going to wait till he got into communication for that one, but, okay. Now that I vented about that, any questions for Jose? Hearing none, then let's go on to the rest of the correspondence. Or no, before the correspondence, I'm sorry. Public communication. At this point in the meeting, Planning and Zoning Commission welcomes comments, concerns, and opinions relating to planning and zoning in Enfield from anyone who's present, provided no one may discuss any matter of business at this time that is already elsewhere on the agenda, any matter that's part of an open public hearing of the commission, or any matter where a decision of the commission may be pending. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the commission? Yes, sir, please, your hand up first. Give your name and address.
Are you together?
Flip a coin. Thank you.
Maurice LaRosa, 37 Litchfield Drive, Vice Chairman, Zoning Board of Appeals.
And I'm Peter Yarham, 18 Tyler Road, Chairman, Zoning Board of Appeals. Mr. Chairman, we're here tonight before you because of the site coverage, lot coverage issue that's been ongoing.
Jose, excuse me, do you have one?
No. And in response to your comment previously, it is still an issue with the Zoning Board of Appeals because of a letter that had previously been sent out that I just handed to you. And the issue being that when we're looking at decks and whether or not they are to be included in site coverage, there's many definitions that are within the regulations, and based on Mr. Geiner's letter, he disagrees that decks should be included. At our regular meeting this past Monday night, Mr. LaRosa reported back to us after being in front of you on April 19th and reported that your decision was that Section 4.10 would stand and that decks would be included. However, I think the issue is, as you have reported, that there was not anything that described that in the minutes. And I think the minutes will be our, let's say, our what's the word I'm looking for? It'll be our verification that decks are to be included. At our Monday night meeting, we had the majority of our board in agreement with your commission's decision. However, we did have a few individuals who agreed with Mr. Geiner's letter. So we need to put this to rest, and I guess we're looking for verification and confirmation as to the direction we go in.
I believe that if you were to write a letter to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and that's your prerogative if you'd like to or not, explaining that decks are not buildings, that seems to be the hang-up here. Decks are not buildings, but also explaining that they are structures and they are mentioned in zoning regulation 4.10.
Well,
and
also,
we will
the
uphold that.
Excuse me, town attorney quoted section 230, provides a structure is anything constructed or erected which requires location on the ground or attaches something having location on the ground, but not including fences, walls, or use as fences. That's from the town attorney.
Correct. Our
That's
issue
January
is
17th.
our issue is we've got a couple members of the board that are, because Mr. Geiner issued this letter into our packet after I came and spoke with you. They're confused on whether or not this letter upholds over what you were saying or vice versa. We're just looking for something from you
Okay.
to put their minds at ease
Well,
so that we can go forward with
these
this.
are minutes of April 19th. He probably printed these before because this is basically what he had told us at that meeting. And I don't know what time packets are put together, but you were here
well,
for
right.
that meeting.
Correct.
And I said, this is not the time to discuss this. We weren't
Thought it was-
discussing this.
Right. And that's,
So this.
So how did it get to you?
it
well,
was put into
it
our
was-
packet.
But their packets are put up. I don't know when they're put up. I
Okay.
mean, you can't wait until our meeting's over to do anything for them. Something got crossed, that's
That
all.
that was written before the commission's meeting.
I mean, I
So-
don't-
And obviously, the CC was the ZBA, so they were CC'd on it. Just the timing of it was, they met after you guys met, so.
So what we're saying is this letter basically is,
No good.
No, it's
good.
still my opinion.
That's their
And Let me
opinion. It's
clarify,
what-
that's still my opinion.
This is what he gave
And I
us.
think, what the chairman's reading, it talks about structures from the town
It
attorney.
made sense,
And
that's
and there's
right.
a definition in the regulations, and 4110 does talk about meeting the standards of the chart there, which says coverage shall be 20%, but if you look at the definitions, it talks about 4 walls being part of the coverage.
So we changed the definition.
But again, the commission said what it said and asked me to come up with a new regulation, which I'm working on. So, the problem
take a look
hopefully
at
will be
the-
solved, and any
We'll see
confusion
if we
will
like
be
the
out of
other
the
way.
way. That letter was written before the commission, and the only reason they got the ZBA, because they,
So who rules?
CC'd.
Last I knew, the ZBA is,
it was,
Last I understood, you guys make the rules, we enforce the rules.
that's.
So,
Mr. Geiner's letter was superseded by our discussion at the meeting, so basically, it no longer should be irrelevant. Our discussion was that on page 23, section 4.10 was very explicit in saying the table, including lot coverage, included buildings, accessory buildings, and loading docks, and decks, and porches, or all the others, so.
and I'm in agreement with you. I'm here tonight to ask if we could get a letter stating that. So that
Take a copy of our minutes, the next minutes, we really
We will.
don't need a letter. I don't know why we have to keep doing this, it's very plain and simple.
We thought so too.
Yeah, we thought it was over when I reported back to him.
I know,
And,
well,
and unfortunately,
seems like we're on the same page, others aren't.
I agree with you.
I watched that meeting.
yeah.
Very confusing.
Our meeting?
Yes, your alternates.
Well,
Really confused me.
okay, well, let's not get
Welcome
into
to the
world.
personalities. Okay, anything
Thank
further?
If we are going to talk about the alternates, let's have them here next
Oh,
week so
please.
they
No.
can defend themselves.
Well, but nobody's talking about anything except the interpretation that we gave and the interpretation, what we said stands, and that's it, pure and simple.
Thank you very
If we
much.
change anything, we'll let you know.
Mr. Chairman, does definitions mean anything with this or no?
We've had trouble with definitions all the way along.
I'm just asking, do we use definitions or not?
The regulations that are more important than what the definitions are.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I believe that we do use the definitions to coincide with our regulations. And in section 4.10, it states buildings, structures,
Yes, it does.
as well as
That's right.
loading docks, decks. A structure,
It's
building
pure and
is a
simple.
structure, but a structure is not a building. So Mr. Geiner's 100% right. A deck is not a building. It has not four walls, nor does it have a roof.
That's
But
right.
it is a structure.
Absolutely, that's what
And
the town attorney says.
in 4.10, it is specifically stated. A loading dock doesn't even have walls, but it is there. Buildings, structures, as well as.
It says.
Pretty clear.
The town attorney says structures, anything constructed or erected which requires location on the ground
Right.
or attached.
So I don't believe that regulation does away with any
Let's not
definitions.
discuss it.
It
It's
uses
just-
all of them.
We've settled it. There's no ands, ifs, or buts.
We
Period.
agree.
And the revised minutes will reflect that, so you can rely on that.
Thank you
If they
very much,
want,
gentlemen
they can
and
get the
ladies.
copy
As well
of
as
the
the
tape.
minutes of this meeting.
Yes,
Yes.
as well.
Thank you.
Have
Have a
no
great
idea.
night.
But don't go away too far, because I have a question that might pertain to you.
Okay.
So when you sit down, just don't leave if that's,
Anyone else wishes to address the commission? Anyone else wishes to address the commission? You have something to ask them?
well, it was kind of a combined thing. It was something I was going to bring up in commissioner correspondence, but it has to do with a hardship as well. And it has to do with planning and zoning. I received a few phone calls from people that with the new assessment.
Wait a minute, you can't ask them because that's with the audience. If you gotta
No,
have to
I'm
do
just
this,
want, I want them to be aware of this,
Oh,
that's all,
okay.
that's all. I don't want them to
Well,
answer,
then
I just
let's
want them
move on
to.
to-
Going to hinder anything that may come in front of us?
Let's go beyond public, let's get into commissioner correspondence. Anyone further like to address the commission? Last call, anyone like to address the commission? Okay, then we'll move along to correspondence. In your book, the correspondence, well, the biggie is the one I mentioned on the gasoline plume on our aquifer. You have on the table tonight, this has to come up later. I'm sorry, this is East Long Meadow Planning Board. You'll notice, we get notices from once in a while from East Long Meadow when anything happens. Long Meadow never even tells us what's going on. You have to perhaps read about it in the paper if you're lucky. But I also read in the paper their town manager is also the planner, Jose. Is that,
I don't know.
okay, you don't
They
know.
may have it, made a promotion.
I thought I read
Or it
that.
could have been.
Because they're looking for a new town manager up
Right,
there.
it might be the interim.
Okay, Jose, there's a you might want to check into, I was looking at the referrals from CROG. Glastonbury, it says proposed amendments to zoning regulation to provide for adaptive redevelopment zone to facilitate reuse and redevelopment of historic, underutilized, or distressed properties. We were talking about something like that, and isn't that what the gentleman came in to talk to us about? Could you see?
Adaptive redevelopment's sort of like our regular, it's also called adaptive reuse. It's usually for, we have one, it's the SDD, Special Development District. It basically, it talks about distressed properties like we did for Bigelow.
Right.
And for the Bernie's property that was underutilized. So we do have a zone, which is a Special Development District.
Okay.
And that's, they may have something, I'll take a look at their regs, because I can always
Well, that's what I thought, maybe.
prize from
yeah.
if somebody did something a little bit better than we do, so,
Well, see if you can get a copy of that.
and I will.
I noticed Coventry proposed amendments to zoning regulations regarding accessory structures. So other people are having similar
They look like
similar things. Those are interesting to read.
stone walls and other things, too.
Yep. You have meetings, minutes of the inland wetlands, April 17th. You have that letter from Thomas Sedor or the registration form, which you've invited the gentleman in. And that's it for correspondence, general. I didn't get a magazine this month. I don't think there was one. Or was there?
For what, for planning?
Might have read it. Yeah, maybe that's where
I think it just,
Got it in the front?
man, it might have been
Okay.
just coming in today, and
Okay.
I saw one come across my desk, so I don't know whether it came in time to get it. in your
Okay,
folder.
commissioners' correspondence? No.
Okay. I had received a couple calls from people. With the new assessment process, the assessor has taken large acreage parcels and carved out like 2-acre building lots and are assessing the people for the 2-acre building lots. Now, this is the question that I came into. If they already had a lot split of a 68-acre parcel and it was split off to 30, they got their first free cut.
Right.
Now the assessor is taking out a 2-acre building lot, and it doesn't matter if it's an R33, an R44, or an R88. She's still taking out 2 acres and assessing them for a building lot. And I feel personally that this is a dangerous area because if they start paying for a building lot, then if we didn't approve something, they could go to ZBA and claim a hardship. And because they're being assessed and they're paying for a building lot.
Come on, Jose, that's not right.
Well, again, the assessor isn't physically carving out those lots. I think the assessor's looking at the acreage and calculating what the value is based on future subdivision.
All right, but how do you do this? The question, and this is why I think that this should be a question for Kevin Deneen. How do you do this if you take 2 acres and you're in an R33 zone? So what right does she have to impugn 2 acres out of
you're gonna
everybody
cut it.
in town that has more than 2 acres of land? And it doesn't matter, how it's done across the board. Everybody that has more than a couple acres, this has been done.
We're also supposed to be protecting the farmers.
Yeah,
If you
I
do
understand. I
that-
mean, again, those are assessment questions, regulations,
But
and
this
laws.
is basically a
doesn't say you
zoning
can
question.
do
I
that.
believe this is a zoning question.
In the sense
There
that I hear the argument also when people come in, well, they're assessing me on this, and then we tell them, well, you gotta appeal your assessment. You have to get the assessor to change their assessor's cards if you think there's something,
Yeah, but if people
some wrong
aren't aware of
information
it.
on it.
Yeah, but
We as a zoning commission can only deal with what
Well, it's a
the
zoning-
applications we
But
get
this
for
is a
subdivision
zoning
land.
issue.
She's going to go from a zoning point.
She's
to-
using the zoning regulations, and again, I'd have to ask her what basis she's doing that on. She's looking what the zoning, sort of doing a build-out analysis.
Right.
But she's
Basically,
asked
that's
for,
what she's doing,
she's
a
asked
very-
if Kevin Deneen
Knows
to-
this.
is to check into the zoning problems that may exist in doing so.
If there's any zoning implication.
Right.
I
Yes,
think
that's the question for him, that we have a right to ask.
I should ask him if there's any zoning implications down the line for actions by the assessor in assessing
Absolutely.
building lots that are not
Or
currently, that are not
zoning, ZBA, or.
actually subdivided.
they're
Absolutely.
being
Right.
taxed based upon a rezoning would have given the basis for a future request for
I just want to make
rezoning.
sure we're going to ask him.
Yeah, you better. make
Because
that sure, 'cause
This was like when, I saw this on myself on a bunch of them, and there's other issues, but this is the zoning issue that was asked, and I think that there might be a good case for hardships, and if we said no, we aren't going to let this lot go through, but they've been paying taxes on it for 5 years as a
We've run
2-acre
into that,
lot.
Jose, down when we've done lots of record. And people, that's one of the determinations, if the people had been paying as a separate lot, taxes on a separate lot, whether or not, and this was especially downtown.
Yeah, and we find some, every once in a while, I tell the assessor, those are merged lots of record. People come in wanting to make sure their tax bills reflect that, and I'll be asked to write a memo to the assessor confirming that, in fact, those are merged lots of records, and they shouldn't be taxed on 2 lots.
That's right.
So it's sporadic, but every once in a while, someone will come in and say, look.
And if the remedy is that those farmers or landowners who happen to know that this is being done come in, and those that don't come in, that doesn't seem very equitable either. And that
That's for sure.
could lay the grounds later on for requests for rezoning based upon lack of public information, lack of
So-
informing people that this is happening to their property.
See, the thing that I discovered, and I discovered this as an appraiser as well because I did some appraisals for this stuff. In my own property, I had a 1 acre lot for my house. And then with the new assessment, I have now a 2 acre lot. So I want to know where the other acre came from. So I find out that they decided to take it from my PA 490, the back of my farm. So they actually decided to suck a acre out of the back of my farm and
Add it
throw
to
it
your-
into the front where they can charge more money. But now I found that they have done this to every farm in Enfield and every farmer in Enfield. I don't believe that this is something that they can do from 1 year to the next without notifying people.
And, yeah, I don't know whether you can do anything about it. I may have to go
Oh,
to other
I
boards.
appealed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying you can appeal as a resident.
I guess
and-
they could.
And the policy is beyond the Planning and Zoning Commission's.
Right.
No, but-
But what I'm trying to say is,
Or-
I went in for the appeal as a resident. But then I had people asking me zoning questions, and then it started to, like,
So the zoning
register.
question.
What,
get
what,
it-
what implications?
What implications
Are there any
would-
implications for zoning
Or
with the assessor assessing land based on possible building
Right.
lots?
There's a greater
And-
precedent.
And the important thing to know is, you're taking 2 acres in a 1 acre zone. What right does she have to take? I'm in a R33, 33,000 square feet. I've always been 33,000 square feet. And this year with the new assessment, I'm 2 acres. So how do you then just change arbitrarily? And there, she isn't doing it by zones.
So
If you're a
she's-
1 acre zone, you're still getting taxed for 2 acres.
Charlie, didn't last month
So
we
let
have
me
somebody?
understand what she's doing. You're in R33, you got land that right now is assessed, they sort of put a little 33,000
Took some off
square foot
another
or
piece
1
of her-
acre, I don't know,
Right.
around that lot, which is
Right, it's my
normal.
house.
So, and then the rest of it is assessed at 490 or
Right.
excess land. So you're saying that this assessment, they're now carving out an additional acre?
An extra acre, and it's town-wide.
So an extra acre to that 1 acre you already have? It's not
Yes.
two additional acres?
Right.
It's the 1 acre.
1 acre more.
Okay, so I understand what's.
So
what's
they're
happening.
even changing lot lines.
Yes.
Well, they're not changing
Well-
lot lines,
Well,
no, they're not.
They're making up their own.
They're making up
They're
their own lot
assessing,
lines.
they're basically doing, if you remember,
You've got somebody.
I know,
a
but
very,
he's really
a
not
very
timing.
rudimentary build-out
know
analysis
who he
on a
is,
lot by
he's a
lot
engineer.
basis. They're trying to estimate in the future how many houses could be built on a lot. Whether, so, yeah, it's like,
Charlie, so does this becomes a building lot now? Is that what they're
No,
saying?
Well,
no,
that's
Oh, no,
that.
it's-
But Lori's saying
we're
they're
trying-
carving it out.
They're
and they're going
carving
to
it
charge
out.
you more taxes. They're going to
Yep.
tax something that doesn't exist.
Right.
And about a month or two ago, we had a guy come in front of us with farmland on Brainerd Road, and he had to come in and apply to carve out the building lot.
Yeah,
That's
oh, yeah.
exactly-
So why shouldn't anybody else have to do that?
Well,
They
If Lori
should.
decides that she doesn't want building
they're
lots,
not
now she
physically-
does.
oh, yeah.
She's just
Is that
assessing.
they're not physically carving that
Well, they
lot out, and I.
They just did. They just
No, let's say that farmer that came in for subdivision didn't want to subdivide that land. The assessor would say, you have the potential for another building lot there, so therefore your land is valued more. And then they assess you for that potential
But I
value.
thought the state of Connecticut.
That's what I'm thinking is happening.
Yeah.
And I'll double check, but there's no way they can physically subdivide or show
But the
on a map.
people think they have, and that's the problem, and that's what you've
And
got to ask
that may
the
be
town
an issue.
attorney.
If that's the understanding, then it has to be made clear.
ZBA and the P and Z are heading for trouble if it's allowed to stand.
Right.
There's a lot of misunderstanding out there then, because I know I get people, you're right, people come in and say, I'm being taxed for this,
Right.
why can't I do this? And while the assessor may not be aware, that there's a merged lot there, and then we rectify that, or the assessor may not be
Well,
aware that
find
that
out.
land is in a floodplain, it can't be
Right.
done anything to it, we.
Find
let
out
the
from the
assessor know
town
that,
attorney,
so-
Jose.
But,
Okay. That would be.
okay,
Oh, yeah.
and I'll,
Some were and some weren't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
years ago in T-ville, Jose, the same problem. And people went to put building lots. They said they were too small, but they were paying separate tax bills for years, and they ended up being building lots.
That's right.
So,
well, yeah, you can merge
what I
lots
was
of
saying,
record,
we
you're right, a
do
lot of
that.
people were, because of
what we call
the
lots
deeds
of record.
reference Lot A and Lot
That's what we
B.
call lots of record, yeah.
And they were merged, but the assessor kept, some of them they did, they caught, some of them they
It's
didn't.
up by,
And
like
then-
Manning Road, they're 25-foot lots.
Right, and people come in, well, I got a 25
Believe it or
foot, so
not.
no, you can't do that. It's not, zoning won't allow, you won't, you can't fit
No,
anything
no,
in.
but that's what they were up
But they're being
there.
assessed on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And so we correct
When
those as we
when
go
that
along.
development was set up, they were set up on 25-foot lots. And if you get any building, when we had one of the streets come in from up there, you couldn't let them build on 25. They had to merge several of them.
So, yeah.
Okay, any further commissioner correspondence? No one? Okay, well then, let's move along. Bond releases, Jose, we haven't had a bond release in a while.
I got a couple inspections for landscaping, which I was waiting for, good weather in spring.
Okay.
So I can take some nice pictures for you. So it hasn't been, I
Public
think
hearing
we'll have some on the
continued
next
from
agenda.
April 19th. XZA 12-2, proposed text change to zoning regulations to add a new section that will set standards regarding the condition of garage or tag sales. We don't need to read the legal notice, but if you will take the roll, please.
As soon as I find it. Commissioner Duran.
Here,
Commissioner Ballard here. Commissioner Paul. Commissioner Sarno. Commissioner Longi. Here. Ooh. Here. Commissioner LaFakis. Commissioner Ladd. Commissioner Gregory.
Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Drinan.
Here.
Commissioner Alimo.
Here.
Commissioners Gregory, Alimo, and Reinen will be sitting in for the absent commissioners. Okay, Jose, I didn't get a new copy, so I don't know.
It's in the
Well,
packet.
maybe, yeah, I did, I'm
It's
sorry.
it's a couple of pages, a short memo and then an attachment.
The only questions I have, and go ahead, does anyone have questions? Biggest question is how and who regulates and enforces?
Well,
You know,
we
we're
thought
gonna-
about that when we were drafting them. Did we want to, start imposing a permitting system, which was going to be tough to, get people to come in and, because basically people have been holding tax sales forever and ever, and to all of a sudden say, okay, now we're going to start requiring you to apply for permits. We thought that was a little bit too heavy-handed on there. But by the same token, when we do get a complaint, we didn't have any standards to go by. So at least by adopting this, people can still have their tax sales. They don't have to come, Mother
Okay.
May I to the town. And basically, as long as we don't receive a complaint from anyone that they're doing it every single weekend and storing stuff on their front lawn like we were getting some complaints on, at least we'll have a regulation to back us up when we cite the property owners for
Okay,
abusing
so
the.
at present, we'll try
tax
it
sale.
this way, and if it
Right.
becomes a problem,
Yeah, you're right. It'd be tough to enforce. If we
Oh,
have to
yeah.
actively enforce it and chase everybody that didn't get a permit, we don't have enough staff or time.
well, I'm thinking of those single signs you were talking about. And they're all over, but they're in every town. It's, I saw Windsor Locks has their own. Long Meadow has their own because they're putting them in Enfield, with Long Meadow on the bottom. I mean, so it's singles Long Meadow, singles Windsor Locks,
We moved a
single
bunch of
Windsor.
those.
I know, but they're popping up on all the towns.
And I went on the website, it doesn't lead you
Can't
anywhere.
find the website.
It does not lead you anywhere. Does not lead you to a
But,
website.
I mean, so this,
I don't know what the purpose of those are.
And if we get a fines ordinance to back this up, it's good to have this on an exception basis where it's needed.
Yeah.
As we had found, I think last year there was some concern.
I don't know about the fines ordinance. You're gonna have to do some politicking with your council people, I guess. I don't know. Because, people just totally are ignoring, Jenny. You just drive around town, you can see the results. Okay, so
Nicely reworded, by the way, the paragraph G.
Okay, well, that's what,
yep,
and I think I had received an earlier email from Commissioner Long, and I think we had changed it. And
Yep.
any,
what happened somehow they didn't get the revised version. They got
They
the
don't
original,
have
so.
any, thing for, Ron?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Let me open the public. Anyone in the public would like to speak in favor or against this application? Anyone in the public would like to speak in favor or against the application? Last call to speak in favor or against the application. I'll close XZA 12-02.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve, okay. That we approve XZA 12-02 tag sales, proposed text change to zoning regulations to add new section 4.40.6 that will set the standards regarding the conduct of garage or tag sales. Enfield Planning and Zoning Commission applicants effective May 14th, 2012, in a memo dated by Jose Geiner on April 27th, 2012.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Should we reference the revised per comments of 419?
Sure.
Okay. Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous, 600. Moving on.
John,
Public hearings. Vice Chairman, please read the legal notice
Yeah,
for
I don't-
2744.
I don't have one.
Aha.
I don't have a legal notice
Here we
in my
go.
packet.
Yeah, there it
Thank
is.
you very much.
Dan, take the roll.
Yes. The Enfield Planning and Zoning Commission will hold public hearings on Thursday, May 3rd, 2012, beginning at 7 p.m. in the Town Hall Council Chambers, 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, concerning the following. Public hearing, 2744. Special permit for a rear lot to be located behind an existing home at 324 North Maple Street in a residential 33, R33 district. Map 80, Lot 34, Kevin P. and Maria T. Tooley, applicants, owners. Roll call. Chairman Doran,
Here.
Commissioner Ballard here, Commissioner Falk, Commissioner Sarno, Commissioner Longi.
Here.
Commissioner LaFakis, Commissioner Ladd, Commissioner Gregory.
Here.
Commissioner Dryden.
Here.
Commissioner Alimo.
Here.
Commissioner Gregory, Alamo, and Dryden will be sitting in for the absent
I got
commissioners.
stuck on that one.
You have letters from the engineering department with okay. Water pollution control had some problems. The fire department had some requests. And on your table tonight, you had a plan for approval for a well location only from the health department. So that clears up all of the reporting groups. The applicant or the applicant's representative is here. If you'll introduce yourself, please, and name and address.
Certainly. My name is David Pomberg. I'm a professional land surveyor from the office of William R. Pomberg and Son Land Surveyors, 264 Hazard Avenue, Enfield. I'm here on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Tooley regarding the property at 324 North Maple Street. I believe you all have plans. I can hold this up to point out, but basically we have an existing lot of approximately 3.5 acres was created in 1937. We're here requesting a special permit for a rear lot, in which we will create a building lot for one single-family home at the rear of the property. We've utilized the same curb cut on North Maple Street with a permanent easement through the front property with a driveway to the single-family home to the rear. We had our ART meeting. We received comments from the fire department, which were addressed, some note changes on some details regarding the driveway and clearances and plowing. We received some comments following the ART from the Water Pollution Control Authority, which are basically just adding 2 details to the plans, a connection detail in the street, and we provided for the cleanouts as he requested, and he also requested a plan and profile of the sewer line to show the coverage on the pipe. We have not provided that yet, but we're seeking that as a condition of approval. Engineering comments, I believe what comments there were have been addressed. There's no outstanding items other than the WPCA comments. It's relatively straightforward. It's an old lot. We did one in 2007, 2 lots up North Maple Street for Mr. Seidel. Same exact situation. His lot was created at the same time as part of the same subdivision. As I said, it's relatively straightforward. I think all comments have been addressed, except two outstanding items for the sewer department, which will be addressed prior to the issuance of a building permit.
That's for sure. Questions for the applicant?
Was the shared driveway agreement going to be in the deed? I'm just curious.
The shared driveway agreement is going to be in the deed as well as, reviewed prior to being in the deed.
Okay.
It needs to be reviewed by the town attorney as in regards to a maintenance agreement.
Okay.
And as well as the easement documentation.
Any questions, other questions? Nope. The only thing, in the minutes, ma'am, when I open the public.
Just clarify that question. It isn't part of it is part of the conditions on that. Actually, we want the agreement and deed language. If you look at condition number 4, to be approved by the town attorney.
Okay, it was there, okay.
Prior to the Mylars even being filed.
Okay, good.
So there'll be something concurrent with the Mylars.
I noticed the town engineer uses the term crushed stone, and on your plans you say gravel.
It's to be crushed stone.
So the plans need to be changed to, the plans I have
Actually,
still.
processed stone is what it's referred to in the detail. But however you
Processed
want it
stone.
addressed, we can address it.
Well, I don't know. Crushed stone is what the town attorney used. I don't know what he says.
Engineer, yeah.
Town
Town
engineer.
engineer.
I think process tone is the same.
Well, I don't know if it is or
He
not.
reviewed he reviewed the revised plans, and I believe he said they were fine.
Right, the
As
question, that particular question had to do with the depth. The
Right,
regulation
because,
changed
yeah.
from 8 inches to 10 inches.
Because others rear lots we've always had, and the fire department didn't say anything. The fire department said it was okay. He just had requests on clearance, I think.
Right.
The others have had, because of the weight of the trucks, and I didn't know if there was a difference with the weight of a truck on crushed stone or weight of a truck on gravel.
It's really semantics. I have the detail sheet back there in my briefcase, but it's basically, it's processed stone. It's a processed stone surface to support those vehicles.
I just wanted to get it right, because I don't want the problems for either the fire department or the people that are gonna live in that house. If a truck gets up in there and gets bogged down, I think there is a little, it's kind of a intermittent stream that runs through the side there.
Not on this property. There's no wetlands on this property.
Well, no, there was,
There's the pond.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, then if that's, Jose, isn't a problem, I don't know, I just reading.
I'm trying to see if the regulations,
I don't think so personally.
What?
I think that the processed gravel driveway and crushed stone is basically it's so similar.
I don't know, the town engineer said,
I think it was the depth they were concerned about, not the,
On sheet 3, the detail calls for processed stone.
and the regulations call crushed stone base acceptable in design to the Director of Public Works, which is really the town engineer that works for Department of Works. So the regulation, he's reviewed that detail,
All right.
and his only concern was with the depth of the stone base, so.
whenever
We can certainly change the
Whenever
first two sheets.
Kabibbo says, I try to go by what Kabibbo,
Yeah, the town engineer reviewed it and
all right.
improved the detail. His
Any other
last memo.
further questions for the applicant? Hearing none, then I'll open it up to the public. Anyone wishes to speak in favor or against the application? If you'll allow her to come up, please. If you'll give your name and address, ma'am.
Sure. I'm Doreen Lusai. I live at 326 North Maple Street. I own it. I was just wondering exactly where the house is going to go, because our properties are adjoining for hundreds of feet. Yep. Okay, so it's going to be near my property, because
it's
my
centered on
line.
Right next door. Well, I don't know where your house is. You're
It's near
the
the
property
road.
owner to the north. Right,
Up here, it shows your house.
Yeah.
right.
On the locust map, it
Right.
shows her house up near the road. This house will be located to the rear, about halfway back on the property.
Right. Well, see, this is all my property right here.
Well, so it'll be
So-
abutting your property, that's all. It's
Yeah.
just like another house.
Okay. Now, is there any more houses that can be built back there with the 3.5
No.
acres?
No, not at all,
No,
not at all.
Okay.
Not on this property.
Now, is that still gonna be, is that a separate lot now then?
This would be,
yes,
if I may,
Yeah,
this would be a separate lot. We show a proposed tree line here. There would be a wooded buffer along the property lines remaining. The driveway would be on the opposite side of the property from your property and would utilize the existing curb cut that services the house now.
So if the Toolies wanted to sell that property, they could?
absolutely.
So it-
If it's approved, yes.
Okay. Okay, I think that's.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wishes to speak in favor or against this application? Anyone else would like to speak in favor or against the application? Any further questions from the commission? Jose?
You do have a memo with the conditions and the notes requested by the Water Pollution Control Division, and
Yeah, I noticed they pretty well cover it.
it's on there, and the fire department also. Again, the fire department was present at the air team. They didn't see a need to request any sprinklers here. Our regulations say we may request sprinklers
I
on.
know some of the fire marshals have,
I don't think it's that
In the
far back,
past.
yeah.
but I don't think we've ever approved
That
them.
we've approved them.
No,
No.
they might have been requested, but we didn't require.
Okay.
Okay, then, if no reason to keep it open, I'll close public hearing 2744.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve public hearing 2744, special permit for a rear lot to be located behind an existing home at 324 North Maple Street in a residential district R33, map 80, lot 34, Kevin and P. and Maria T. Tooley, applicant's owner, subject to the conformance and with the reference plans as may be required and modified by these conditions. And there were 21 conditions. In a memo dated from Jose Geiner on April 26, 2012.
Second.
You have you read the conditions? Any problems? None? Okay, thank you very much. Any discussion?
You remind me after the meeting.
Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous, 600. Again, it meets the requirements of the Enfield zoning regulations. It has permits from the health department and fire department.
Thank you for your
It's
time.
needed, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to offer a comment on what you were
I saw you before, and it's a good
Yeah,
time.
well, I'd like to
Well,
offer a comment in regards to the farmland and maybe it's not appropriate now, and I can certainly send an email
No.
through Jose.
Oh, is there any problem with the commission allowing him to?
Absolutely,
Okay.
let us know.
Just as a surveyor, I don't know all the details of what you were speaking of. I will say that any property that is filed under the 490 Act, which it sounds like
They
what you
are.
were referring to, the 490 Act explicitly cuts out a 2-acre parcel regardless of size as a home lot, whether there's a home there or not. That's exempted from the 490 classification. And there's also a minimum acreage to qualify for the 490 classification, which has gone up in size over the years. And I think that 2-acre area that you're referring to pertains to an exemption from the 490 classification and not necessarily a zoning classification. I don't know the ramifications through zoning if someone comes and says they're paying X number of
Yeah,
dollars.
that's what we wanted to find out.
And it's not solely the 490, it's everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other item to point out is after the revaluation, the town has adopted new software, particularly in the assessor's office, which I found out. And they're finding a lot of things that somewhat fell through the cracks. So it may be part of that as well.
So,
But
thank you.
Thank you, yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. Old business SBR 1546, application for a 4,700 square foot addition to the existing industrial building, 198 Freshwater Boulevard. Is there applicant present?
No,
Okay, Jose.
they're on vacation, so if you have a request in your folders that they would like to request an extension for the deadline to act on a site plan application. As you know, the 65 days would have been up, I think Saturday was the deadline. Without the, you're allowed to grant extensions up to additional 65 days. At this point, they'd like to get it at least to the meeting of the 17th, where they hope to have all their plans together. But both the architect and the engineer went on vacation at the same time, so,
Okay.
although I suspect different places, but.
I didn't think you wanted to stay, Lori. Okay.
Around tonight.
A motion would be in order then to accept the request for an extension to May 17th.
I move for acceptance of a request to extend SPR 1546 until May 17th.
Second?
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor? It's unanimous.
Okay.
500. We've dropped one.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving fast here now.
I
can't
know,
keep
better
up with-
hurry up or we won't.
FLD 034,
commission
it's a
left.
request for a development permit within a special flood hazard area for a proposed residential addition with attached deck at 34 Wheeler Drive, map 80, lot 159. Thomas J. Kidder, applicant and owner. Jose, does this, there's no legal notice on this, right?
This is not
So
a
the
public hearing.
secretary or the second, please take the roll.
Chairman Doran?
Here.
Commissioner Ballard here. Commissioner Falk, Commissioner Sarno, Commissioner Longi, Commissioner LaFakis, Commissioner Ladd, Commissioner Gregory.
Yeah.
Commissioner Drinan.
Here.
Commissioner Alimo.
Here.
Commissioner Limo and Drinan and Gregory will be sitting in for the absent commissioners. Okay.
Just as a background,
For what, on 034, in order to understand what he was doing, because there was no description in our package, you had to read the wetlands permit. So is the applicant here? Okay, if you come forward. And if, Jose, you want to speak for him? Is he gonna
just
speak with
very
you?
quickly, because, yeah, this has gone through wetlands and it's gone through, I know the town engineer's been reviewing for a while, and this, again, is not a public hearing. It's not under your zoning regulations. It comes under the town flood ordinance.
Right.
Which assigns the commission the responsibility to make sure applications meet the requirements of Federal Emergency Management Agency. And basically, the main regulation is that any new construction needs to be at least a foot above the base flood level, which is defined as what's commonly called the 100-year flood storm. And in this area, the elevation that FEMA has determined to be the flood elevations at 185 feet above sea level. As I understand the application, that is there was water damage. A portion of the existing building needs to be replaced. The applicant would like to replace that portion and then actually add another 3 or 4 feet to the living space and then add another deck to the back. Originally, he had applied to extend the foundation beyond, along with the deck, and John had commented that would, even a small amount would go against the regulations, which also say you cannot put any obstructions in the floodplain that would increase the base flood elevation elsewhere. So whatever you put in there causes the water to go somewhere else. And even though there may be just one house, cumulatively, if you approve a lot of them, the last guy downstream is going to be in a lot of hurt because all that water
Gets
ends up
flooded
there.
out.
So
that's
we
what
don't
happened,
allow
freshwater
any
flood.
obstructions.
Yeah.
Mr. Kidder then came back with a plan that showed, pilings over the new, and if you look at Exhibit 11, it's probably the best view of what he's proposing to do. The item that was highlighted in green basically is replacement of the old, and that which I've highlighted in yellow is the new. And as you can see, the new has the pilings underneath, and the old has the existing foundation. So with that, I believe we have a letter that John wrote, or a memo, that says that he's fine with that as long, that there's no 10-inch diameter post. And then the finished floor elevation would actually be at 188.6, which is 3 feet above the flood elevation.
John's letter, you're talking Exhibit 8?
Or 14, which one?
The 14th.
Oh, because it's...
8 was the one that basically said he didn't like the first plan because there was some
the
foundation.
additional structure, yeah, okay.
There was additional structure being added, but Exhibit 14, which you should also have,
Dated April 27th.
I know, I'd like to have them
27,
take a look
basically says, given that understanding, he was fine with it. There are no engineer concerns, condition that the only proposed new footprint,
Okay.
so on and so forth. And you do
So
have,
since we don't have plans, how do we know that we're using Exhibit 14? What did he look at? Are we talking about Exhibit 11, the one that we had?
let me see what I did in my proposed motion now. Yes, I referenced 10 and 11. Exhibits 10 and 11. In my approval motion, if you look at the proposed motion, it does reference subject to
11,
conformance
yes.
with the plans on record, Exhibits 10 and 11.
Okay.
And the condition that the only proposed new footprint within the flood zone are the eight
Well,
10-inch diameter
exhibits,
posts, and
he quotes Exhibits 7, 9, 10, 11, and 12. On number 14, so I
7 or 9 are the old ones.
I think that's, okay, I mean, I just thought that, yeah, 12 shows an above,
all right.
oh,
I don't
I just
know.
thought 11 and 10 were the two best shots of, and then show what John was looking at also. I didn't,
Okay, you have
you know,
inland wetlands authorized agent approval. They didn't even take it at the commission, I guess.
they authorized and they,
So they authorized the agent to do it. And you also have elevation from state of Connecticut, elevation certificate. Any questions for the Jose or maybe the applicant? Or do you care to speak, sir?
I think that sums
He
it.
does, okay.
Yeah, but, we're just looking to comply with what
I
the
don't-
regulations are and to meet what our goal is hopefully to
Right.
fix the property up and move on.
Any questions for Jose? Well, if no questions, Jose, I'll close FLD 034.
I'd like to move to approve FLD 034, request for a development permit within a special flood hazard area for a proposed residential addition with attached deck at 34 Wheeler Drive, map 80, lot 159, Thomas J. Kidder, applicant owner, subject to conformance to the plans on record, exhibits 10 and 11, and the condition that the only proposed new footprint within the flood zone are the 8 10-inch diameter posts under the proposed deck, which will be at an elevation of 188.6 feet.
and adopt the findings.
And the findings listed, do those need to be read? Yeah.
No, you can reference my memo, they'll be fine.
Okay,
We'll-
and the findings as A, B, and C as referenced in a memorandum by Jose Geiner dated April 27th, 2012.
Include those in the minutes. We'll include those in the minutes.
Okay.
Motion's made, seconded. Any discussion?
Does he have to have the 11 conditions,
Well,
with 11 conditions?
Where are
No,
those?
I don't have 11.
There are no
Pardon,
conditions.
what?
There were no 11 conditions on this one.
No.
are you in the right area? That's a wetlands permit.
That was a wetlands permit.
Okay,
He's already got those.
I was trying to be very efficient.
No,
Thank
you
you.
are.
Thank you.
Keeping us honest.
Okay, hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, 500. Good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Waiting to the last.
Appreciate your time.
Okay, other business. This one, ladies and gentlemen, is, I guess, the start of seeing the school being developed. This is an 824 referral, and Jose already answered my question of why the Corps of Engineers is involved, because I thought they only did navigable waterways, but I guess they got their fingers in every pie. If you read the conservation easement, as the town attorney has gone over this already.
Well, he's reviewing it. There may be some slight changes, but again, it's going before the council, I believe, on Monday. They need to close on this, I believe. They're looking to close on the property sometime next week.
Just curiosity, it says to fulfill its present historic, is there a historic value out there?
Don't know that.
I don't think, were the Shakers out that way?
No, it was but it was you know, there was a farm out there that
Yeah, I remember.
it's been there for years and years, but it's all it is basically. We obviously, the town feels that this is more of a belt and suspenders thing.
I think it's-
the vernal pools are already protected by our wetlands
Right, I think it's
regulations
wonderful. I
and
think
received a
it's great.
wetland permit. I think the Army Corps of Engineers wants that added layer of an easement on there. Typically, I know in the state of Connecticut, maybe in other places they don't, but, you know, the town does regulate the wetlands, and they wanted we were going back and forth as to who could be the easement, and they insisted that the town be, you know, at first they wanted the Conservation Commission, then we told them, Conservation Commission is just an advisory board, really doesn't have the authority to accept land or easements from private parties, and then they reluctantly agreed to have the town council be the recipient of the easement. And in fact, we're going to regulate it anyway. We have our wetlands agent. If anything goes out there, anything happens to those vernal pools during construction or after construction, we're going to know about it. And
It's
our
quite
wetlands
a-
agent will be out there citing whoever needs to be cited.
You look at the map, it's quite an extensive area, and I think that's wonderful to have that type of preservation
And,
for future generations. That's really admirable.
A good chunk of the acreage is being donated to the land trust. We also looked at the possibility of the land
That's,
trust.
is that the one that goes down towards,
Yeah, it abuts the land trust property at Pheasant Hill.
okay,
So that will be added to their holdings there. That's why we felt it would be appropriate for them to, the one to the right of, yeah, where it says wetland and vernal pool, 9 acres to be dedicated to the Northern Connecticut Land Trust. And then there's an additional 6 acres, which will be part of this easement, which contains a vernal pool and 2 other wetland areas that won't be touched during construction or
great.
at any other time for that
I
matter.
think that's great.
So there's a lot of land. There's a total of 6 plus 15 acres being preserved in pretty much their natural state by both donation to the land trust and easements.
And it's quite thorough on its, what can be done and what can't be done out there. It's very interesting. Any further questions for Jose? Okay, this is just an 824 referral. It's basically you're directing the town council.
But you're recommending. The motion should be.
I'd like to move that
recommending
that
approval.
this body recommend acceptance of the proposed conservation easement by the town on Section 8-24 referral. That easement being granted by the Quebec Public Service Academy at 1617 King Street in Enfield.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous, 5-0-0, and that's wonderful to have this type of thing for the town to be able to preserve property for future generations. Okay.
Where is it?
most of you noticed, and I guess you had a letter there too. Peter was in earlier, but our letter to the ZBA on behalf of the applicant Mad Hatter Company, Mr. Williams, was approved. And so that letter helped. And I'm sure they want to thank us, so they did last night anyway, that we had the letter sent. Okay, now, applications to be received. On your table, before I start, you have in the packet, Town of Enfield Developmental Service Planning Department. This is from Jose. And we are going to receive an application to subdivide the former Lego campus into 4 separate lots. And before we have to do that, we have to do some waivers so that the application can be properly entered into our tracking system. The staff has no issues with the reduction since there's no new development proposed to justify the engineering review and the other fees. And if the waivers are granted, the application fee would be $680. So if you have a chance, if you want to read, I'll read the thing from Mason and, is it Hagel?
Correct.
Civil engineers and land surveyors, 81 Ranklin Road, Glastonbury, Connecticut. Chairman, Enfield Planning and Zoning Commission, 820 Enfield Street, Enfield. RE the Hackman Capital Industrial Subdivision. Dear Mr. Chairman, I'm writing to request a reduction of fees for the above referenced subdivision. This subdivision is unique in the fact the site has been previously built upon and no new improvements are being proposed. The site plans for the existing buildings on the site were all reviewed individually and approved by the applicable town boards and commissions at various times. Purpose for the subdivision request is to allow the individual buildings to be offered for sale. 4 buildings exist on the property and 4 lots are being proposed. Based on the history as well as the current status of the site, the following fee reductions are requested. A reduction of fee C, since all road improvements to existing town roads were previously approved and constructed and no engineering review is necessary. A reduction of fee E, since no construction is proposed, therefore no sediment and erosion controls are necessary. Fees for the other applicable items will be submitted in full. Your attention to this matter is greatly appreciated. Sincerely, Mark W. Friend, Lead AP, PE Soil Scientist. And you have the other fee table on the other side of it. Any questions for Jose?
I think we've done this before for other applications where there was no new construction proposed. Obviously, the fees for ENS control were basically to have, to pay for John's sort of reflects the time spent going out and doing inspections for.
So Chair will request
What we'll be doing.
two motions for waivers, if that's your desire.
I'd like to move to waive the engineering C and the sediment and erosion control review E fees of the subdivision application fee schedule.
We do two separate in case there's a problem.
Oh, okay. Waive this, the engineering C fees of the subdivision application fee schedule for public hearing 2748, since there is no new development proposed that would require engineering or sediment, engineering review.
Motion's made and second to waive engineering review.
Fee C, yeah.
Fee C.
Fee C.
All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, 5-0-0.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to waive the sediment and erosion control review E fees of the subdivision application fee schedule for public hearing 2748, since there is no new development proposed that would require sediment and erosion control review.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous, 5-0-0. That takes care of that. Okay. Moving on now to Well, chickens weren't on our business today anyhow. Application to be received, public hearing.
Just, as you go through them, there's just one hearing scheduled for May 17th, which is the Kia vehicle display lot across the street, so.
Yeah, but we just moved one over
Right.
so that we have two.
Well, that's a site plan. I'm talking about public hearings.
Oh, all right, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
So you do
Public
have,
hearing, 2746, special permit for a change of non-conforming use to allow a car detailing business on property previously used as a wholesale used car dealer. 41 Mullen Road, okay. Yeah, I noticed that building has been absent.
it's interior work only, so if you,
Yeah, because he had permission for parking cars out front and so on and so forth. so-
right, he just wants to do car washing and detailing.
Okay.
No selling,
So
no.
that shouldn't be a problem. Put it on May 17th. That shouldn't be too long a place. By the way, is the council thinking of doing anything with that road? I mean, it's getting chewed up. I mean, granted, it's a public road and the trucks have a right to use it, but
I could check to see whether it's on our Road 2000.
I'm just curious because I
No, that's a good
go out
question.
several times.
Maybe on a list of,
It's tough for a person to drive in the lane because the side of the road is chewed.
yep. We'll see.
Both sides,
Is it on next year's?
it is. Okay, good.
Okay, well, I'll double check and.
Okay, 2747, petition for zoning regulation text change, a new residential district would permit multifamily development subject to specified standards.
This is the applicants that were before you informally
Yeah,
regarding the
Yeah.
Mayfield property,
yeah.
and I did.
So instead of doing this by the whole area, we'd be doing it by district. That sounds interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the approach is to create a zoning district. You know, in the past, we've had people apply to put it in the R33 and R44.
Yeah,
There's
right,
been a concern about opening up the floodgates.
right.
So I think by the way this is written, you'd create a separate zone in the regulations.
Sounds good.
Then they'd have to come in for a piece of property to put that zone on. At that point, you can decide whether it's appropriate or not, and if you don't, case closed. And then if
Okay,
you do,
well,
then
that
they spend
sounds
the money
good.
on
We
the-
should take a good
on the
look at that.
full application, and
Okay.
I've sent it to CROG. They have 35 days, so suggested hearing change is, I said 5/2. Oh, no, that's received June 7th, I'm sorry.
June 7th's fine.
That way CROG will have time to review it and get comments back
Okay.
if needed.
And 2748 is what we just took action on, and they want that May 17th?
Yeah, I guess they're looking, they have a few things in the hopper that they would like
I had
to.
heard through the grapevine.
Again, it's not any new development and no staff review.
That really shouldn't take any time.
It shouldn't be very difficult review at all.
So 17th is all right with that.
Okay with you?
Okay, you all right? Yep. Okay. XSU 12-3, accessible play, oh, good, wonderful. This is the Rotary Club,
Correct.
okay? They want 17th too, that's fine with me, but
17 or 7th
are
would
we gonna
depend.
be overloaded on that?
Well, that's why I put or June 7th, depending, if you feel you can get through it all that night.
Okay, what do we got on the 17th?
We
Just-
have the Kia across the street.
Yeah,
Now, we have the car detailing business, which really shouldn't take too long.
no,
And we have the Lego subdivision.
that shouldn't take too long.
And then we continued that site plan review, which you've approved it before, if they've revised their plans to meet your conditions.
All right, well,
shouldn't
then
take
let's
too long
try
either.
it, because I'm sure they want to get started, and I've been reading about this. I'd love to see it getting going.
So at least, if there's any issues, you can always continue it. to the-
Okay,
to
we'll
the
take it
7th,
on the 17th.
If it looks like it's gonna, but they've had a full ART before they even submitted the plans, and a couple of preliminary meetings, so the plan should be all nice and clean.
Okay, SPR 1552.
Site plan review.
Okay. That's 27 North Main.
That's where the check cashing place was, Western Union, right down the street next to.
Right, and the barber shop was next to it.
The barber shop is still there, and I think that's right next to North Central parking lot, that corner of the building.
Yep, that was Pinella's old office.
That's gone through, ERC's already acted on it. They reviewed it last Thursday, excuse me,
Okay,
and they recommended approval, so I don't know if you want to put them on.
I don't know. We sort of got a lot that night, but
Well,
They don't seem to be that heavy, though. You know,
it's a change of use for interior business.
okay, all right, so then try it on the 17th.
You know, the thing is, we have an extra Thursday in May, so if we don't have it, I believe. If you don't, it's like a 3-week.
Yeah.
So if you think we can, we can always tell the applicant you're going to be towards the end of the agenda, and if we run out of time, for some reason the hearings, there's always that risk that you're going to get tabled anyway, so. But at least if they're ready to go and we move along
Okay,
fine.
and
they get through.
XSP 1204, Thompsonville Fire Department, I know what they want.
Well, we don't have
What do you
really.
want to do with that?
Well, let me put it on when it's ready. They may need to withdraw and apply for variance. We're trying to, the situation is that they've received, I think it's in their application materials, some notice from either OSHA or the state building official that certain portions of building cannot be occupied, and I think it's the area that the firemen are using as a lounge area. So what they'd like to do is, if they can, is fit a 10 by 30 trailer temporarily. And maybe Dominic knows some, you're the fire commissioner, if I don't explain it correctly.
No, basically, that's what it is.
They need to put a 10 by 30
Yeah,
application.
for sleeping and eating out there because the OSHA and state fire marshals
That's what
came
I
in.
thought it would be sleeping
I
too.
didn't know it, see, I thought it was just gonna be a lounge area for.
No, I think they're going to use it for both.
Okay. So we're trying to fit it, the plans we had, I put a template on it,
The place is bad.
and as, this morning, I got together with John Cabibbo. The way it's laid out, actually, is their parking lot is not part of their property. Part of their parking lot is town property, so the way it fits would actually cross property lines. That's why I think it may end up being a variance. At that point, I would just have them go to the ZBA and not bother with the commission. They would grant them a variance for whatever, a year and a half to do that. So John was gonna get some old plans. Apparently, when they redid the bridge, the town paved some of the land that the town owned and allowed the fire district to park there. The part of that parking lot's on town property. So the town property line cuts across their parking lot. And they would have to get town permission, obviously, for a portion of the trailer to be on town property. So it's, I'll put that on if it's ready. Or if it looks like the
Whatever.
PZC's gonna act on it, then I'll put it on. If not, we'll put it on for the 21st ZBA
Okay.
hearing. But it's, from what I got, it's time critical, so we wanted to make sure it moved along whichever way we decided to go with it.
Anything else, Jose?
I believe that's it.
Anything else from any of the commissioners?
Make a motion, we adjourn?
Second?
Motion's made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.